Nowadays, you have access to the information you need anywhere, anytime. But things were a lot different 100 years ago, especially for people of color. And Sneesby-Koch joins us now this morning to discuss the historical significance of black newspapers in the 1800s. Good morning. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
This is fascinating. You were saying that y'all just kind of came across these as you were digitizing newspapers.
Well, we knew that we had the papers in our inventory, but we received a grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities to digitize historic newspapers for Colorado. And so among some of the first newspapers that we decided to digitize were the black-owned and published newspapers. The Denver, it was called the Statesman, then it changed its name to the Denver Star, and then also the Colorado Statesman.
I know that, Ann, you and I were talking in the commercial break that bylines are actually relatively new, and so there weren't a whole lot of bylines in these papers, but do we know who was behind these efforts?
Well, we do know the editors, and in the case of the Statesman, which became the Denver Star, there was a man, Joseph D.D. Rivers, who started the newspaper in 1888. He came to Denver in 1865, having graduated from the Hampton Institute in Virginia. And then in 1892, Edwin Hackley took over the editorial helm of the newspaper. And Edward Hackley was a really interesting man. He was the first black man to be admitted to the Colorado State Bar. And he was married to a really remarkable woman, Azalea Hackley, who was the first black graduate of Denver University's music program. And she was a renowned choralist and activist.
And so interesting people that are behind this interesting content that went into the newspapers, content that you weren't going to see in other publications.
Right. So you would see a lot of discussion about Jim Crow laws, segregation, the rise of the KKK in Denver or in Colorado, and also when the release of
Birth of a Nation.
Birth of a Nation
Yeah.
in 1916, there was a great outcry from both the newspapers, the Denver Star, as well as the Colorado Statesman, which was the other major black newspaper in town, petitioning and asking the city officials not to show this film as it was so divisive and so inflammatory that it would ruin some of the strides that were made towards some sort of peace.
Right. Right. So editorials like that, you're saying they're writing about Jim Crow laws, the rise of the KKK. It's not how it's written about in the other publications. Right. This is incredibly important for this population to have their own.
Right. And it's written from a black perspective. It's written from the non-dominant culture's perspective. And particularly in the case of the Denver Star, the sort of the masthead was to voice our opinions, to assert our rights, and to reinforce or reclaim our respect.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm curious. Today, all these years later, what has the lasting impact been?
Well, it's been wonderful having had the chance to digitize these newspapers because we have found a lot of information that would have otherwise been, sort of contained to microfilm, making them digitally available and making them digitally available for free on a couple different websites. It has given people the chance to look into their history, to look into black culture and society in Denver during a time that might not have been available.
Yeah. Just briefly, where can people find these articles that they want to check out?
You can find them on two major websites. The first one is the Colorado Historic Newspaper Collection, which is run by the State Library, and that's coloradohistoricnewspapers.org, and also on Chronicling America, which is the Library of Congress's large newspaper database.
Fascinating.
So you can just Google those and you'll find them.
Oh, we could ask you so many more questions. Unfortunately, we're out of time. But Ann Sneesby-Koch, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.